And welcome back to Africa Speaks. We have about 20 minutes on the clock before the end of the show this afternoon. And the United Nations Environmental Assembly and, of course, the commemoration of Unep at 50 is slated for the 24th to the 4th of May. That's of March. That is in 2 days' time. And to speak about that is Dr. Richard Monang. He is the acting deputy Unep regional director for Africa. He now joins us right here in Nairobi virtually. Dr. Monang, good to see you this afternoon. Perhaps we begin with the assembly that is set to begin in 2 days' time. Talk to us briefly about this assembly and what is the reason why the assembly is coming at this opportune time right here in Nairobi.
Thank you very much, Ken, for having me. The world, as we speak today, is under the weight of environmental challenges that are actually affecting economic as well as human development. Just for example, as we're speaking today, 11 million metric tons of plastics actually get into the ocean each and every year. This is equivalent to a truck of plastic garbage being thrown every minute into the ocean. And as a result of this, we are seeing up to 100,000 marine animals killed each and every year. And more importantly, on top of this, just between 2019 to 2020, a lifetime of about 1.3 trillion is actually lost as a result of plastics. And so the issues of environmental challenges, what Unep has actually put out there called the planetary crisis, climate crisis, biodiversity, loss and pollution and waste are critical issues that the United Nations Environment Assembly that kickstarts on the 28th of February is actually going to be looking on to address.
Okay, so that is the reason. Now, this is the Assembly 5.2. How did the COVID-19, for example, affect the convening of this assembly in the last 2 years?
Between March 2020 to August 2021, all the 193 members of the United Nations Environment Assembly, results from research shows that they produce approximately 9.3 million tons of plastics related to COVID-19 waste. And about over 28,000 of these actually got into the ocean. And this is a problem. When you look at it, UNEP actually, through its emissions gap report of 2020, showed that the world needed a green pandemic recovery. And that green pandemic recovery actually taking actions that unleash socioeconomic opportunities and at the same time lowers emissions. And if this is done, it can be able to lower emissions by up to 25%. So leveraging on that, other countries and regions, for example, like the African region through its African Ministerial Conference of the Environment, came up with a program called the Africa Green Stimulus Program, which actually countries now are taking on board to be able to drive transformational development, working with nature, not against nature. And that's why the theme of UNEP, strengthening actions for nature to drive sustainable development, is actually the anchor of the discussions of UNEP 5.2.
Okay, so your projection, if COVID-19 and the protocols in place continue for another 1 or 2 years, what will be the state of our oceans and water bodies?
From the statistics that I have given up front, every year we are seeing over 11 million plastic getting into the ocean. That trend is projected to increase if action is not taken. And that is why the UN Environment Assembly 5.2 is aiming to come and establish the International Negotiation Committee on Plastics, so that at least there can be a global treaty that can actually be able to set the direction and the global goal on how plastics can be managed. Because let's face it, the reality is, if you look at plastics from an opportunity perspective, only about 10% of plastic have been recycled. And this gives an opportunity for governments and countries to be able to set up recycling plans that can create jobs, especially for the youth, and inspire opportunities for millions. And that will reduce plastic getting into the oceans and affecting marine and aquatic life, and actually impacting tourism and opportunities for communities.
All right. there are concerns that even before COVID-19, the water bodies was already suffering, choked with every kind of pollution, plastics and all that. Now compounded by the COVID-19 and the wastes thereof, and the protocol, especially the one on masks, it looks bleak. So from where you sit, what is the solution apart from establishing the negotiation committee that you're talking about?
The recycling presents an opportunity. As I said, only 10% of all plastics that are produced across the entire world. As we're speaking, the world uses 500 million single plastics each and every year. And out of these, over 11 million of them get into the ocean. So setting recycling plans and actually recycling creates an opportunity to inspire businesses and to create opportunities, especially for the young people. And because only 10% of that is happening at the moment, it means that 90% is a big opportunity. Okay. And so from COVID to other emergencies that will happen, if we looked at it from an opportunity perspective, then we can then be able to reduce the waste that the world is facing. But more importantly, regulation is the biggest driver of change. And that is one of the opportunities that the UN Environment Assembly is going to do to set up this international negotiating committee for the first time to deal on plastics.
All right. And that brings us to the Kenyan case, because now that UNEA 5 is being hosted in Kenya, perhaps the statistics of the Kenyan scenario, the studies that have been done in Kenya, forget about the world or global statistics. What is it like in Kenya in terms of this pollution?
Actually, Kenya is a leader when it comes to plastic pollution. Kenya was actually amongst the first countries in the continent to be able to ban single-use plastic, and later on banning these across parks in the country. And that's an excellent example. Banning and enforcing sets a very excellent signal, not only to create opportunities to look at alternatives, to then be able to develop what can then be able to replace single-use plastic, but it also inspires other nations across the continent to be able to do so. We have nations like Rwanda that have banned single-use plastics and many others that are following suit. So Kenya actually is a leader when it comes to this aspect of plastic pollution.
Okay, and what are some of the proposed solutions? Because I want to talk about the conference and the environmental concerns, apart from just the pollution that is going to come up, because we know the drive towards green energy and that. But what are the specific proposals that you are making for Kenya right now?
Kenya is part of the 193 countries that are actually members of the United Nations Environment Assembly, and the resolutions that are actually put forward takes into consideration aspects that are actually core to Kenya's transformational development. When we're talking marine litter, Kenya is a touristic country. The plastic getting into the oceans and affecting aquatic life actually is going to affect tourism. Mm-hmm. It's also about food security, where those who depend on aquatic opportunities like fisheries, when fish actually is reduced as a result of ingesting microplastics, that affects food security. Kenya actually has set itself to reduce emissions in the next 8 years by 32%. Plastic do contribute to emissions from the production to actually degrading to microplastic resulting to emissions. So the actions to reduce plastics, the actions to reduce marine litter, the actions to enhance nature-based solutions so that at least we work with nature, not against nature, is actually going to be able to help ensure that Kenya achieves its obligations under the Paris Climate Change Agreement, but at the same time creates opportunity for the youth. Because let's not forget, we're talking in a continent where we have over 60% of the population youthful. And in Kenya here, every year, between 800 to 1 million youth get into the labor market looking for jobs. So opportunities to actually turn plastics to pavement tiles, which we are seeing youth do, where they retool their skills. It's an opportunity for business, turning a challenge into a socio-economic opportunity. And that fits squarely into the development agenda of Kenya.
Okay. Very interesting. So talk to us about other aspects of issues affecting the environment that UNEA 5.2 is likely to focus on during these few days.
The issue of recovery is very important. We are still in the midst of COVID and just barely coming out of it. Countries need to recover in such a way that they are also lifting people from the bottom of the pyramid. And one of the resolutions is green recovery, but not just recovery to put more money in more pockets, but recovery in a way that works with nature, not against nature. And that is actually one of the resolution. The resolution looking at how can we be able to reverse biodiversity loss that is actually plunging millions of countries, not only from a socio-economic dimension, but also from a human dimension, losing our biodiversity, losing our ecosystems that actually are the towers for our rivers. And all these have been looked into. There is also the aspect of the dimension of actually looking at how do we ensure that at least the green recovery, as well as the biodiversity loss, as well as the marine litter, as well as plastics, all these together are actually done through the lens of nature to drive sustainable development goals and leave no one behind. These aspects are actually key. And remember, all these are contributing to the bigger agenda of ensuring we keep temperatures below 2 degrees, which is actually what the Paris Agreement intends to do.
Okay, so climate change also comes into play. So all the 192 participating members are expected in Nairobi?
The UN Environment Assembly is actually hybrid. There are those who are attending physically, and there are those who are actually participating through online. And this is to ensure that no one is actually left behind, that it's an inclusive discussion, and all the countries, those participating physically and those contributing online, are all taking part in this. And that shows the cruciality of environment, and in this case, nature, to drive sustainable development, which is the theme of this UNEP.
All right. As I let you go, talk to us about also commemorating Unep at 50. What is the kind of commemoration that we expect at the end of the few days that the assembly is going to be in place?
1972 was when UNEP was formed, and 2022 actually makes UNEP 50 years. And this is a looking back 50 years and also looking into the future. And this commemoration is a celebration of what UNEP have done in the arena of the environment. And when you look at it, what UNEP has done has actually inspired the world through science, new knowledge on issues that have actually kept the world on check. And just to give a few examples, emissions gap report. For over a decade, it's UNEP, this UNEP's report that have actually shown the world where we are with emissions into the atmosphere. The global environment outlook, the state of the environment, where we are and what needs to be done. The frontier that gives information on the kind of new emerging areas. In 2006, UNEP report actually fronted and showcased what is happening today, the COVID-19. And these reports have actually shown the world and provided the best science on what to do. So this is the kind of thing that UNEP actually at 50, member states will be celebrating, and at the same time also providing policy guidance and leadership on how UNEP can be able to move forward and continuously drive and be the environmental conscience of the entire world.
Okay. So as I let you go, any special something that is happening to mark the 50th anniversary?
The head of states and governments will come together and provide leadership speeches and also guidance, and also help provide information and advice on how we can be able to move forward as an organization, but at the same time also handle the emerging issues that the world have actually faced. And more so how governments have also been addressing these aspects, because UNEP actually responds to member states' challenges, provides science to guide the world to be able to address challenges. And so how the world have also handled that, both from a country level, from a regional level, and from a global level. Those lessons are actually going to be shared. And so it is an opportunity to celebrate, as well as also face the magnitude of the challenge that the world faces today: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution and waste, what we call the triple planetary crisis.
Okay. And in 30 seconds, why should the youth pay attention to this assembly?
Environment is an opportunity, and it is a socio-economic and a business opportunity. The young people who actually need jobs today, over 60% of them unemployed in the entire African continent, of challenges in the environment present opportunities. Plastic waste presents an opportunity for you to learn a skill to develop plastic tires to develop tires that can then be able to create a business for you. Opportunities in turning agricultural waste into briquettes to replace charcoal actually is worth over $12 billion in the continent today as a market. So environment as an opportunity, and listening to these challenges and also listening to the opportunities is actually a business opportunity for you to seize. So every youth should tune in and actually listen and follow the discussions, because environment is a solution to the socio-economic challenges, including job opportunities for the millions.
A good place to end the discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Richard Munang, the Acting Deputy Unep Regional Director for Africa, for speaking to us this afternoon. And we look forward to more of these conversations. On Friday, I know we'll have also representatives speaking to us as the assembly begins. But even as we end the show, finally we go to Australia, which says they will spend just over 5